That's what this song's all about. It's about handing over the things that maybe this world has told us. It's about handing over our heart and letting Him replace it with the things that He sees in us. God, here's my heart. Just listen. Here's my heart, Lord. Oh, here's my heart, Lord. Oh, here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Sing it. Oh, here's my heart, Lord. Oh, here's my heart, Lord. Oh, here's my heart, Lord. Come and speak what is true. 'Cause I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, and I have life, I can breathe. Oh, I am here, and I am free. Oh, here's my heart, Lord, take it all. Oh, here's my heart, Lord. Oh, here's my heart, Lord. Come and speak what is true. Won't you come and speak what is true? 'Cause I am found, I am yours, I am loved, and I'm made pure. Oh, I have life, and I can breathe. Oh, I am healed, and I am free. 'Cause you are, oh, you are strong, and you are sure, you are light, you endure, and you are hope, oh, you are grace, you're all I have, you're everything. Oh, here's my heart, yes it is, Jesus. Oh, here's my heart, oh, here's my heart, come and speak what is true. Take it all. Oh, here's my life, Lord. Oh, here's my life, Lord. Oh, here's my life, Lord. Come and speak what is true. Won't you come and speak what is true? Oh, Jesus, speak what is true. Come renew our hearts, come renew our hearts. Oh, the only one who makes us whole, the only one. Hey, come and make us Jesus. Lord, we thank you.
That was Lauren Daigle. She's the singer that we listen to every Thursday singing Here's My Heart, Lord, so I thought maybe you'd want to see, put a face to the voice, that beautiful voice. They call her the Christian Adele. She's got that similar type of voice. So here's my heart, Lord. Let's all take a nice deep breath, put our hands on our hearts, and think about this dedication that we're making when we sing the song. When we say, here's my heart, Lord, what we're saying is that we want to be used in the service of God's grace. We want to be God's voice in the world, God's hands, that's movement. Bless our feet, bless our hands, bless our hearts, bless our eyes. Let us be willing to open our hearts. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart. Here's my life. Here's my life, Lord. Speak what is true. Let me hear your voice. Let me attend to your voice so that I can be an instrument of kindness, of love, of caring, of all that you would have me to be in this world, in this moment, and in the days to come. We say, use me, Lord, when I am truly attuned to your voice. Not the ego's voice, but the voice of the Holy Spirit. So I'll take a few moments to just be in a meditative mindset of receiving the willingness to open our hearts, to open our minds, to be the conduit of the Holy Spirit, His voice, presence, compassion, kindness. Let's take a few moments to just feel what that feels like, to be truly connected. Let's extend that connection from ourselves and divine to one another. And we bless one another. We give thanks for this day. We give thanks for this family, this spiritual, mighty companionship that we have with one another. Present here, as well as those of you who are present in cyberspace. How wonderful that we have this technology that keeps us connected. So we give thanks for all of that. We give thanks for this opportunity to be a blessing, even in the face of those things which upset us in the world, remembering that we are the conduits of love and compassion. We are the ones who are changing our minds so that we can change how we interact and ultimately change the world itself. The world that was created by egos can be a world that is functioning from the Holy Spirit's divine grace. That's what we're here for. That is our function. We are essential workers on this particular path. We give thanks for that. Give thanks for that. And we say, Happy Thursday. Happy Holy Sacred Thursday. How wonderful it is to be here again tonight together. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you all. A couple things. You know, some of us are doing the text challenge, and some of us are doing the workbooks, and some of us are doing both. And I gotta say, doing both, it makes me want to talk about a lot more than I can pack into an hour. So I think we need like an ashram. We need an actual functioning ashram. So if you can all just pool your pennies, and I'll just be there every day, hanging out to talk about Course in Miracles, and y'all can just stop by, you know. Or a retreat. We've been talking about a retreat for many years, you know, but there's so much to talk about. And it's not just to talk about it, but it's to fill ourselves with it so that we can go through the day looking at all that stuff that's out there, remembering the truth of what is real and what's illusion, and finding a balance with all that. Because that's not to say that the things we see are not out there, right? I mean, there's stuff out there that upsets us, and it's some of it's really ugly, right? So we hear about abuses and about just all kinds. I mean, you all know what you see that upsets you, and yet our task is not to get caught up in it, not to become a part of it, not to make things worse. The best we can do on a daily basis is just try to do the best we can to be centered and loving and kind, and in our minds retract wherever it is our minds are going to make things worse. And I'll give you a good example of something that I just heard recently. I've mentioned this every week that I belong to different Course in Miracles online groups, discussion groups. And so sometimes I don't know which one I get my stories from. But in one of them, there was a woman who was checking in from Texas, from a post-snowstorm, horrendous conditions area of Texas. And she was a Course in Miracles student. And so she was talking about the aftermath of the storm and just the horrible, horrendous conditions her and her husband were dealing with. And that she decided she would apply Course in Miracles principles to the cleanup effort of her own home and all the things that she lost and all the things that they lost and living in freezing conditions. And so she says that every time she would start to like really feel worn out and overwhelmed, she would ask the Holy Spirit to see it differently. How can I see this differently? How can I be of service? How can I be at peace? That doesn't mean she was floating on air. It just meant she was asking. She was willing, that here's my heart, here's my life. How can I see this differently? And what she said was she started noticing that she was going through the cleanup efforts and the cold nights and everything with a little bit of a sense of detachment, like on the outside looking in at it. Like, okay, this is my story right now. This is what I'm going through right now. But I'm going to do it prayerfully. I'm going to do it mindfully. I'm going to do it with compassion and kindness for myself and for my husband and for my neighbors. Well, at the same time, she said her husband wasn't doing any of that. He was upset. He was upset. He was complaining, and he was just could not believe what a horrible hand they had been dealt. And she said that at the end of a couple of days of going through these difficult times, that she just noticed that she was calm inside. Something inside her was just okay, whereas her husband was actively agitated, and she thought if we all really work a little bit harder at coming back to the voice of Spirit, then we won't be investing so much time in our upset, because the more we invest in our upset, the more we feel upset. And it's not to say that it's an easy switch. It's not like there's a switch inside that just goes, okay, pull the upset out of me. But what the Course is telling us is to practice, just to practice, to every day put into application of our lives the practice of trying to see it differently. And so, as I was doing my readings this week, I was ending chapter 6 and going into chapter 7, following the format. And there was a couple of gems that I wanted to share with you that were based on this concept of trying to, and we talk about this every week, about trying to see it differently, trying to change our mindset, trying to change the way we see the world, having these miraculous shifts in consciousness, and then talking about a couple of lessons, because we got a couple of lessons that are really pivotal for students of A Course in Miracles. All right, so that's like a little preface. The other thing is, there's something really important you all need to know. We need to just take a breath and take it in, right? And that is that it's Tanzua's birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday to you. It's like 4 different song versions going on. Everybody's singing. Yes, we're happy that Tanzua is our family, part of the family. So happy birthday. We're glad you were born. We're glad you're in the world. Pisces. Yes, lots of Pisces in my life. So there's a few things that I wanted to point out. I just some gems that jumped out at me, because chapter 6 and chapter 7 are jam-packed with gems. So if you're not doing the reading, I would encourage you to even just open it up and see what it opens up to for you and see what you come up with. There's a couple of things I thought were important to point out. In chapter 6, here's one that says, the increasing clarity of the Holy Spirit's voice makes it impossible for the learner not to listen. Now, what that means is that the more open we are to hearing direction, to hearing guidance, we can't undo that. We can't suddenly decide, I don't want to be on this path anymore. I'm not going to know what I know. Because we know what we know. It becomes impossible not to learn. I'll give you an example of something that happened to me today. I was walking Ernesto, our altar boy, who's currently taking a little nappy. And it was very cloudy outside, and I was sort of praying the lesson for today. I was repeating it over and over in my head. And there's a part in the lesson, which we'll go to later, that talks about moving the clouds, moving the dark clouds.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about that earlier. And as I was coming around the corner, it was very cloudy out today. It looked like it was going to storm this morning, not later in the day. And there was this little beam of light that was coming through one of the clouds as I was making the turn around the corner with Ernesto. And I was just so in awe of that beam of light. I mean, I was just feeling so full of love and gratitude for that beam of light. And I thought, you can't articulate that to someone. You can't say, well, look at that light. It's like you can't bring out what it is that you're feeling in words. It's an experience. Our spiritual experiences, our spiritual aha moments are very personal. They call it revelationary because it's just between you and God. Right? It's not something that's happening with you and anything else in the world. It's just you and that moment of recognition of the light that is beyond the darkness. And when you see it, you have like this aha or this awe, this moment of awe. And so I had that as I was coming around the corner, and I was just looking at that light. And I thought, how can I not know that light, right? Because once you're on the path and you recognize that there is a specific reason for every sign that is being presented to you, you don't not know that anymore. You are now a learner of these things. So you can't look at that light and not see it as anything other than miraculous, anything other than a beautiful presentation to you in this moment as you're walking your dog. Here, have some light. Here's some light. And it's just like this moment of like complete and total connection. That doesn't mean I didn't get in my car and go to work and feel some stress later on the day. I wish I didn't. I wish I could take that moment and just, maybe the day will come, Maybe the day will come when we can take those moments and just keep them with us all day. And then in the middle of a difficulty, in the middle of an upset, you can go back to and remember, that beautiful beam of light was that reminder. It was a reminder of source connection, that reminder of God's presence in our lives. So it says, once you get clarity in hearing the voice of Spirit, it is impossible for the learner not to listen. Why would you not listen once you hear? And in chapter 7, I sort of amended this and blended a couple of lines together, which is why I'm not having you open your books. But this is a beautiful line. It says, God created you in understanding, in appreciation, and in love. Blessed are you who perceive only this because you believe what is true. Then there's a quote by Jesus. It says, come therefore unto me and learn of the truth in you. You are in communion with the Holy Spirit when you see the altar of God in everyone. When you see the altar of God in everyone, that altar that exists in all our hearts, in everyone's heart, whether you like them or not. Everyone. Yes. And there's the thing. When you see that light behind the dark clouds, you can think of that as the light of the altar that is in everyone. Yes.
It's so true. And I mean, I know it. I know it's so true. But I'm telling you, I have a problem with where do I go from here? Because, and maybe it's the way I was raised or whatever, but I was thinking the other day when I was ranting and raving about faith without action is dead. And so I think, okay, I'm supposed to detach from all of this. Is the detachment the action of...
Well, we all have opportunities to be of service in some way. So I'm not sure exactly what it is that you were upset about this week, but let's say it's something that you can't do anything about at all.
Nothing.
Let's say there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Nothing.
There still is something you can do about it.
What?
There is something you can do within yourself.
So
whatever it is, that is action. That is action. That is action. Prayer is action. Changing your mind is action. Having a miraculous shift is action. All of that is action. But then you might say, but wait a minute, but nothing changed. The world didn't change. Remember what we've said time and time again about the Course in Miracles. We're not trying to change the world, we're trying to change our hearts. We are shifting our hearts.
I think it's me thinking that I'm supposed to be, maybe pounding my chest or whatever, or doing something, shoveling, or I don't know, something that's supposed to fix all of it.
And sometimes we do get those feelings of being helpless. Like I'm frustrated because I'm helpless because I'm not being able to make a gallant change in some parts of the world, or in some parts of my world, or some parts of something that I see as an injustice that needs to be fixed. And again, it comes back to how we see the world and how we interact with the world, how we can shift our own hearts, how we can shift our own minds, and not attributing or contributing to whatever it is that would make it worse. Because sometimes people make it worse just by being angry, just by interacting with people in a negative way. I mean, I see sometimes comments on Facebook, and I'm thinking, why did you just keep that to yourself?
Yeah. Well,
That's not necessary, because you're adding to the negativity.
The Eckhart Tolle's theory about the pain body.
The pain body.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's a theory. I think it's a fact.
It is a fact.
Yeah, and it just literally feeds on other pain. So if I'm in a bad mood and you're in a good mood, and I come in and start squawking, you're gonna have to fight to keep from getting caught up in everything that bothered you for the day.
Right, and that's part of what we talked about before. For those of you who are out there, we have some time together before we go live on Facebook, and we talked about how we're just making conversation, we're just chatting, we're catching up with each other, but we have made a commitment to spend a few moments before going into live in silence, in prayer, because it's an important discipline for all of us to find that space of stillness, to find that place where we can bring a little bit of peace into any situation. Wayne Dyer used to say that no matter what he was walking into, he would be singing like the peace song in his head. And I do that sometimes now too, like the Unity peace song, let there be peace on earth, let it begin with me. Sometimes I'll just hum that in my head. And I've told this story before. I'm going to tell it again because it just popped into my head. So I'm going to tell this story. All right, this is going to make Stephanie laugh. But this goes back to when I was in Plum Village with Thich Nhat Hanh.
Oh,
you were there?
You were
Thank
in
you.
Plum Village? You met Thich Nhat Hanh?
I was there. And thank you for the fanfare. But there was an event that was taking place, and everybody left the sleeping quarters to go to this event. Now, I was upstairs in a private room. Some people had private rooms, but most of the time, the majority of people were in groups, like sleeping, like in community, big community groups. So this particular day, I wasn't feeling very well. I felt like there was a cold coming on. And the person I was with had gone and gotten me some tea, and we were sitting in the room, in our private room, drinking tea, and looking at the schedule, and we thought that the place was empty. However, all of a sudden, there was a mother and daughter who started having a fight of fights. The ultimate mother-daughter fight. It was vicious. It was cruel. It was mean. And I was just like, shh. I was like, we can't let anybody know we're here, you know? So they were like, yeah, oh my God, the things they were saying back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the daughter was going off to join the Israeli army. This was their last weekend together. And we were called the White Dove family. Everybody was put into groups, and we had to spend time with our own little family. We were and they were part of our White Dove family, which meant we had to eat together, we had to do chores together, all this stuff, right? So I'm upstairs with my partner, and we're drinking our tea, and we're trying to be quiet, and this mother and daughter's like yelling, and I started feeling really weepy for them, you know. I was like, oh, what do we do? Then I started feeling appalled, and then I was scared. Then I was triggered. It's like I'm getting PTSD. I mean, the whole thing just went way on too long. I mean, it was way too long, way too much yelling. And in the middle of it all, don't forget, let's go back to the beginning of the story. I wasn't feeling well. I had a cold coming on. Don't forget that, okay? That's an important part of the story. Why? Because I had to sneeze. I felt a sneeze coming on. And I was like,
your ears out.
I sneeze out loud. My sneeze came out. All of a sudden, the fighting stopped. Got real quiet. Then you hear, they left the building, right? So, I had a lot of emotion. I got caught up in their emotion. I was sad, I was mad, I was triggered, I was upset. So much happened just because I was a witness to their fight. So yes, we're very sensitive, we're very energetic. You know, when we're in each other's presence, we're going to feel each other's energy. But if there's stuff going on in the world that we're upset about, and we engage in the upset, yes, it's going to affect us. It's hard for us not to be affected by that. This was a wonderful opportunity for me in this environment to practice some things that were going on because I was in a Buddhist retreat, right? So it was up to me to be calm and kind and compassionate. And so one of the things I said was, I can't gossip, right? So I can't go up to anybody and go, oh, you should have heard that mother and daughter. Oh my God, what they were saying. I couldn't do any of that, right? Even though in my head, I was kind of doing it. So then later that, they kept avoiding me. They would just avoid me. Every time they would see me, they would avoid me. Oh, there she is, I'm gonna go this way. Well, it turned out that we had to have our dinner together because we were family, right? The White Dove family. And the young nun who was running our dinner said, we're going to go around the table and say things to each other. Let's just reach out to one another and let's connect. So guess who they chose me to connect with? The mother. So she was looking at me with a mix of don't you dare, and I'm scared. She had no idea where I was coming, what I was going to say, you know. So what I said to her was, I really admire the fact that you and your daughter are on this trip together. I think my mother would have loved for me to have done something like this with her. And I never did. I probably never will. My mother was alive at the time. I said, I don't have the kind of relationship with my mother that would include taking a trip with her. So I really admire you for doing this. And so that's what I want to present to you who get upset and wonder, what can I do? What can I do? Is see it differently. How can you inject another way of seeing, some level of compassion, some level of kindness, even if it's what's going on is not how you would do things. It's not how you want to do it. Because in those who are involved in whatever it is you're upset of, there is the altar of God. So if you could say to someone, you know what? Let me talk to you in a way that is different than how you expect me to talk to you. Because you expect me to argue. You expect me to tell you what is wrong. You expect me to come up with all the adversarial stuff. But I'm going to give you something different. A Course in Miracles says, and I believe it's in chapter 7, that your brother, when he acts insanely, is giving you the opportunity to bless him.
Yep.
So thank him for that opportunity and then bless him. So that's what we can do with our upsets. That's what we do even in those moments of being so triggered that we forgot. You know, we forgot all our lessons. We got spiritual amnesia, you know, because sometimes we do. Sometimes we just go into our full-blown ego human stuff.
I think of Marianne Williamson, and when she up on the stage, I can see her right now up on the stage with the other candidates, and her speaking her truth, the truth in my humble opinion, and she took such a beating for that. She removed herself from everything. So we just got to start loving people. We got to take care of our kids, you know, things like that. And they talked about her as though she was from another planet.
Yeah, she got really quite mocked for that.
Yeah.
But I think that in retrospect, there's a lot of people who get her and get the message. And whoever needed to hear that message and responded to it and change something within themselves as a result.
It helped me just listening to that calm up there. And even when people were trashing her, I knew that she was right.
Yeah.
You know, so it helped me get through some of the trash talk that was going on, knowing that she, for a short time, was, you know.
She was a voice. She was our voice. That's right. Yes, Stephanie.
I loved your story.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Every now and then, I'll give you a Plum Village story just so you can remember.
Plum Village, I never knew.
That was 2000. That was a long time ago. 2004, I think it was. So before we go to our lessons today, we're going to be looking at lessons 68 and 69. There's something else I wanted to share with you. In line with everything I've just said, and this is from a Zen Buddhist teacher by the name of Dennis Gempo. He says, everyone is already the living Buddha, complete, whole, perfect, just perfect as you are. All this action and effort to become someone special is just making you very unspecial and creating a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. All this action and effort to become special is making you very unspecial and creating a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. This is so Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is constantly, continuously reminding us that we are part of a whole. It's not about being uniquely special in your ego stuff. It's about being special as a loving self. It's a different way of seeing special. You want to be special? Be full of love. Be full of kindness. Be full of caring. Be full of willingness to give your heart and your life over to a new vision, a new way of seeing. Deep breath on that one. So, lesson 68. This leads us right into the lessons. Lesson 68 is one of those lessons that I have a marker in here with a little sticky that's been in there for years. I've had this book for a while now. This is one of those lessons that I always come back to. Love holds no grievances. You who were created by love, like itself, can hold no grievances and know your true self. To hold a grievance is to forget who you are. To hold a grievance is to see yourself as a body. To hold a grievance is let the ego rule your mind and to condemn the body to death. Ooh, that's heavy. Well, to hold a grievance, which we do, I'm sure you have a few. I know I have a few. I have one in particular. I have not completely let go. And so when I read this, I think, okay, so why am I holding on to a grievance? Well, because there's that part of us that is special and suffering because of our need to be special, right? Like the Buddhist teacher said, that part of us that wants to be vindicated, that wants justification, that wants to see a wrong done right. That's why we continue to suffer, because we're thinking that we have to have that. And so as long as we're holding the grievance, we're suffering. We're suffering. Whoever we're holding the grievance against is not suffering. You know, it's like they say, drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's what a grievance is.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Let's go to the second paragraph. Oh no, I'll finish this one. It says, perhaps you do not fully yet realize just what holding a grievance does to your mind. It seems to split you off from your source and make you unlike him. Unlike him. Who? Him? God. Jesus. Source. Anybody who's risen above grievances. Anyone and anything that has already come to recognize they're raised above the battleground, looking down saying, that's just silly. That's not necessary. It makes you believe that he is like what you think you have become, for no one can conceive of his creator as unlike himself. So until you can really recognize yourself as having the capability of being without grievances, you'll continue to think that you can hold on to those little special grievances and suffer as a result. And I am guilty.
Preach.
I'm not just preaching, I'm confessing. So it says, paragraph 2, shut off from yourself which remains aware of its likeness to its creator. Your self seems to sleep, while the part of your mind that weaves illusions into sleep appears to be awake. So, understanding that the world that we are living in, when we are living from a fear-based, ego-based perspective, it's like, basically, it's not even a dream, it's like a nightmare. Right? Because we're not allowing ourselves to wake up to the light behind those clouds, to the truth of who we really are. Paragraph 3. It is assured that those who hold grievances will redefine God in their own image. Why? Because we want our own little special grievances, and so we want God to let us have our grievances, and we want our grievances to make us special, and we don't realize that we're suffering because of them. Ironic. Would you not be willing to relinquish your grievances if you believed all of this were true? Perhaps you do not think you can let your grievances go. Begin today by searching your mind for those against whom you hold what you regard as major grievance. I got a major grievance, not a minor grievance. Some of these will be quite easy to find, right? You just think, well, there it is, right there, I know mine. Then think of the seemingly minor grievances you hold against those you like, and even those you love. It will quickly become apparent that there is no one against whom you do not cherish a grievance of some sort. Cherish a grievance. It's a funny use of words, right? Because it's almost like we're being teased here. Like, I got your number. I know you're holding these little grievances and you cherish them. I mean, believe me, I have, every now and then I have this image of someone that I would like to apologize to, just like be on their knees and bloody and bleeding on their knees as they beg for my forgiveness. That's just some kind of crazy fantasy that, only happens in the movies. Or maybe not even in the movies, Why? Why do we think like that? Because we think we deserve... Why are you laughing?
I said, why do we?
Why do we? It's not just me, right? It's like that we want so much to have... Our ego wants so much to have vindication.
Yeah.
And God is telling us all the time, you're okay just the way you are. Let it go. Let it go, let it be. That's our practice. We're working on that. Yes, ma'am.
I was once asked many years ago, was I more interested in fairness coming to me or from me?
Yes, that's a good one. Are we more wanting fairness to us or from us?
I want it to be from me, but a lot of times I want it to me.
We want it all. We want it all.
At the time I was asked, which was, I admit, many years ago, it was very clear what the answer was.
The idea is to be in a remembering that you are safe in your letting go of the grievance. We seem to think if we hold on to the grievance, somehow we're less vulnerable. And if we let the grievance go, we'll be more vulnerable. What it says right here is, love holds no grievances, and when I let my grievances go, I will know that I am perfectly safe. Love holds no grievance. Let me not betray myself. Love holds no grievances. I would wake to my true self by laying all my grievances aside. I did some jumping around if you were trying to follow. I did not go line by line because we're going to go right on to lesson 69. I know, I see you guys going like, what?
Twist it up.
There's a little quote in Wapnick's book. There's a little quote in here from Voltaire, and it says, "God created man in his own image, and then man returned the compliment."
Yeah. Man, yes.
Thank you, God.
That is so true, but that's what the Course is telling us. We're the ones who created all these images of who we want God to be, who we want others to be, how we want the world to be.
Yeah.
It is as sure as those who hold grievance will suffer, as it is certain that those who forgive will find peace. It is as sure as those who hold grievances will forget who they are, as it is certain that those who forgive will remember. Oh, let me say that line again. It is as sure as those who hold grievances will suffer, as it is as certain that those who forgive will find peace. It is as sure as those who hold grievances will forget who they are, as it is certain that those who forgive will remember. Now, lesson 69. My grievances hide the light of the world from me. The grievances hide the light of the world in me. No one can look upon what your grievances conceal, because your grievances are hiding the light of the world. Everyone stands in darkness, and you stand behind them, beside them. But as the veil of your grievances is lifted, you are released. Share your salvation now with him who stood beside you when you were in hell. He is your brother in the light of the world that saves you both. OMG. That is really heavy duty, important to remember, because who are you in hell with is the one you hold prisoner, the one you're holding a grievance against. Release, and you are released. Release, and you find peace. You think you won't, because right now it's hard to see what it would be. What the Course is telling us is that we cannot be released alone. We cannot enter heaven alone. We cannot be at peace alone. This is a joint effort. We are in this together. Any questions? On the live stream? No? Yes.
I was just, it's a little quick anecdote. Is
Yes,
that okay?
of course.
So you were my beam of light this past week, because last Thursday, when you spoke about your story with the dog and the neighbor,
Oh, yeah.
that really made an impression on me. And over the weekend, I went on with a person that lives nearby on a nature trail. It was lovely. When we were leaving, I found out I was locked in. And I stayed good-natured. I went, and I had to call the police. I was afraid. She climbed over, but I was afraid to climb over. I thought I might get hurt. So the police come, and it's pitch black, but it's dark as anything by the time the police come. And I figured they're going to be really nice and kind. They were. This one police woman, blonde woman. I will tell you her name. She was really mean to me.
Oh, no.
They shined their lights in my eyes and questioned me. And
After you called them.
and I felt a little bit, like a criminal.
This is Stephanie telling the story.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing: is I really thought clearly about how I want to show up. And the woman I was with, she's getting mad, and she's
On the other side of the fence?
well, but she stayed with me. I mean, she didn't
Yeah, of course.
abandon me. And then I thought about that police woman who was really, she goes, you're going to have to pay for this lock and blah, blah, blah. And I really thought about her and like why she was being so negative towards me, like, do I look dangerous? And I said a prayer for her that night.
Oh, nice.
But I just want to say, I thought about your story numerous times before that happened. And I feel, and actually what you just read, I felt I didn't get any aggravation out of it.
That's the work. That's the work. Yes, that's the work. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we can do. That's why we have these opportunities and these circumstances. I'm going to, you guys, give me a second to shift a little bit. I'm going to sit because my legs are hurting me. So I'm just going to take a little load off. So yeah, it's a great story. So And that's the type of thing that the Course is saying we could do anytime, you know, and every time. Because certainly those situations will present themselves. Whether it's an unpleasant police officer or an unpleasant neighbor or a coworker or whatever. So, back to lesson 69. Let's try this. It says, we're going to actually do this little exercise. I know you said you tried, you weren't happy with it earlier.
I'm sorry, Jesus.
So, lesson 69, paragraph 4.
I had to drag her out of the house to the beach to get her to see something different.
So that's the work though, right? I mean, isn't it great that you can talk about it and say, you know what, I did not like this lesson. It had me screaming and pounding my sheets and saying, I don't want to do this, Jesus. Who do you think you are? And who do you think I am? And who do you think I'm made of? I'm not you.
If I did it right. What do you mean?
Yeah, but you know what the cool thing about it is that I don't think that there's any ego in Jesus. So you can argue with him all you want, and he's going to say, yeah, well, I'm just sitting here waiting for you.
Right, right, and
I'm
that's
just-
basically what Paul was saying. It was just so funny, and you know, and to be mad at Jesus, come on.
Yeah, well, why not? Have your moment, and then remember, you've got a kind and loving brother who's just waiting for you, you know?
And I had to rationalize in my head, well, maybe she transcribed it wrong or something. Maybe he really didn't say that. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Oh,
Paul goes, yeah, yeah, you were nuts.
let's do this exercise right this time.
So here we go, very, very quietly now, with your eyes closed. Let's all do that. Try to let go of all the content that generally occupies your consciousness. Think of your mind as a vast circle surrounded by a layer of heavy, dark clouds. You can see only the clouds because you seem to be standing outside the circle. From where you stand, you can see no reason to believe there is a brilliant light hidden behind the clouds. The clouds seem to be the only reality. They seem to be all that there is to see. Do not attempt to go through them or past them, which is the only way in which you would really be convinced of their lack of substance. After you have thought about the importance of what you are trying to do for yourself in the world, try to settle down into perfect stillness, remembering only how much you want to reach the light in you. So now be determined to go past the clouds. Reach out and touch them in your mind. Brush them aside with your hand. Feel them resting on your cheeks and your forehead and your eyelids, and then go through them. The clouds cannot stop you. If you're doing the exercises properly, you will begin to feel a sense of being lifted up and carried ahead. Your little effort and small determination calls on the power of the universe to help you, and God himself will raise you from darkness into light. You are in accord with his will. You cannot fail because your will is his. Now, for those of you who had trouble with that, it's okay. It's not as if every moment of every day, when you have this opportunity to shift your consciousness, that you're suddenly going to find yourself walking on clouds and say, oh yes, I've shifted my consciousness.
It was much better right now.
It was better this time around.
Yes, I mean, it was much better. I didn't feel the clouds fluffing away on my face or anything, but it was much better.
So I think that the fact that today, for me, the fact that I actually saw the light in the clouds while I was walking Ernesto, I can bring that image back to me when I have this this opportunity to do a meditation, because I saw it very clearly. But it goes beyond just a meditation. Remember, we've said this time and time when I quote Houston Smith, it's not about altered states, it's about altered traits, right? So we have maybe this altered state while we're in a meditation, even though that was very brief. But maybe even in that brief meditation, you had this moment, where you just felt really connected to God, just like I felt very connected when I was walking my dog this morning. That's sort of an altered state. What we want is an altered trait. We want to move, we want to take that altered state with us so that we start changing the traits of judgment, the traits of anger, the traits of reactivity. Those are the opportunities to at least make a little shift. To make a little shift in the way we see things and the way we interact with the world. Even on a grumpy day, right? Even on a grumpy day, you know you have it in you. You know, it's like raising kids, right? I'm sure that God sort of sees us this way. Oh, I read this thing today. This woman was talking about an elderly person who knocked over a shelf in TJ Maxx. And some of the stuff that she knocked over broke. It fell to the ground and broke. And so there was other people who were trying to help her gather up all the broken pieces. And the manager came over and she was really embarrassed. She said, I'm sorry, just tally all this up. I'll pay for it. And he's like, no, don't worry. Please, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We've got insurance. It was an accident. It's okay. And what the woman wrote on that was like, think of that as God the Father saying to you, it's okay. All right, you got some broken pieces. It's okay. So on those grumpy days when you're just like, acting like a child in a way, right? It's okay. It's just, you're just playing with broken toys and you got some broken pieces, but you've got this source, whether you think of it as Father or light, however you think of it. Just imagine that this divine being is saying to you, it's okay. It's okay. I got you. I got your back. I hope you pick up those broken pieces. It's not that bad that you had a bad day. It's not that bad that you had a setback. You always have this opportunity to begin again. Just look back up at the clouds. Look at the light beyond the clouds. Have confidence in your Father today and be certain that He has heard you and has answered you. You may not recognize His answer yet, but you can indeed be sure that it is given you and you will receive it. Try as you attempt to go through the clouds to the light, to hold this confidence in your mind. Try to remember that you are at last joining your will to God's will. Here's my heart, Lord. Right? Here's my heart. Try to remember and keep this thought clearly in your mind, that what you undertake with God must succeed. Let the power of God work in you and through you, that His will be yours and yours be done. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. I cannot see what I have hidden, yet I want to let it be revealed to me for the salvation and for my salvation and for the salvation of the world. If I hold this grievance, the light of the world will be hidden from me. So we just remember that whenever we have a temptation to hold something against someone, even if it's against ourselves, right? Because we can awfully beat on our own selves. Any questions from the gallery? No? How's our time?
55.
Stephanie?
I really think that what you just said is so important, because when I hold grievances against myself, I don't think of them as grievances against myself. I think of it as my inadequacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so there's a really good point that you're making here, because a lot of times when we're doing the forgiveness work, we think that we can forgive others and we forget to add ourselves to the mix. I'm going to do my forgiveness work, so I'm not holding a grievance. But oftentimes our grievances that are held against ourselves are so harsh because we see it as a determination of who we are. We see it as identifying who we are. And that's why the Course is always including us. It's always reminding us that we are a part of that which is healing, that which is forgiven. You remember the Father saying to you, those broken pieces, it's okay, let them go, because we are so hard on ourselves. So all of this work applies to ourselves, so that we don't define ourselves by our mistakes, by the past, and knowing that as we go forward, we are making those changes within ourselves. Look, there's plenty of things that we can look at and say, look, I'm going to play a video of all my sins. I want you all to come over here the other night so you can be convinced of how bad I've been. That's kind of like because we're playing that movie in our head, right? But that is not what Source sees when Source looks at our movie. Source sees light and love, and we have to see that in ourselves as well. of ourselves.
I heard Jesus tell me you're doing it wrong. That's what I heard.
Doing-
With that, if you're doing it right, you'll feel this way. Well, I didn't feel that way, so I got really angry.
I'm really angry.
And so with what you just said, Steph, I heard myself say that you heard Jesus telling you were wrong.
You were doing it
I'm like,
wrong.
how could Jesus be telling me I'm wrong? What the hell was going on? So, and that was I was offended by that. Because I was less than what I thought I was. Because Jesus was attacking me. Now, let's face it, Jesus wasn't attacking me.
You know what? And when you think
was
about, when you look at the cameos, Jesus is always correcting Helen. And not correcting in a reprimanding way, but sort of redirecting. Come back to the course. Come back, and he even tells her at one time, all right, when you're done with that, then we'll pick up where we left off. Because there's a cameo where he won't continue the lesson because she's upset with Bill. And he's like,
Yeah,
I'll wait for you.
Got to work that out. Yeah.
Work that out, do what you need to do, and then we'll get back to this. It's like coaching a team, right? You got kids who are working on, I don't know, basketball or something. If they're not paying attention and they're like talking amongst themselves and they're playing out in the yard and the coach is sitting there going, all right, when you guys are done, we're going to get to work, right? But the work's not going to get done. You're not going to get proficient in your skills until you come back to where we need to be to do the work, to do the practice. I'm just sitting here waiting for you. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I was once told that when I'm hearing Spirit, when I'm hearing God, Jesus, that it's not the exact words, but they use what like they. So it sounds to me like what Jesus may have been saying to you is the way you're doing it may not be as effective as another way, but not that he was saying. Not you were being a bitch.
I think I was not being good to
questions?
me, and I was projecting
projecting
Jesus.
it. Yeah.
You were projecting.
Yeah, I was
Our
projecting
ego
onto Jesus
was
because
right.
I wasn't feeling good about myself or forgiving myself, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you said triggered that in me.
So let's work on being kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's work on that, forgiving ourselves. I want to wrap it up. I've got a song I want to share with you. This is a song I heard during the week in the radio, and it really touched me. And I was trying to decide, is this a song to play? And then I heard it again, so it was like, oh, and it touched me again. It just really, there's something about this song that moves me, and I hope it moves you as well.
That's cool.
So enjoy the song, and then stay for the wrap-up. Our final words from Spirit.
Life may not be easy, and everything that I need, you've already given me. I remember how you told me I can trust you completely. So I am my doubting when you prove that you fight for me. You've walked me through fire, pulled me through things. If you're in this with me, I won't be afraid. When the smoke billows high, the price of my redemption. Lord, how could I question when you prove that you died for me? You've walked me through fire.
Love that. God's plan for your salvation will work and other plans will not. Do not allow yourself to become depressed or angry at the second part. It is inherent in the first. And in the first is your full release from all your own attempts and mad proposals to free yourself. They have led you to depression and anger, but God's plan will succeed. It will lead to release and joy. Remember this and ask God to reveal his plan. Ask very specifically, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? Give him full charge and let him tell you what needs to be done by you in his plan for your salvation. He will answer in your proportion. He will answer in proportion to your willingness to listen. He will answer in proportion to your willingness to listen. Can we hear that again? He will answer in proportion to your willingness to listen. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? Amen. Let's all just open our hearts and our minds and we'll listen and we'll love. God bless you. See you next week.